You think fried chicken is just something you grab from a fast food window? Think again. Long before Colonel Sanders built an empire, black moms across the South were perfecting fried chicken recipes that made their kitchens legendary. Let's dig into 30 forgotten fried chicken recipes no one makes anymore. Buttermilk soaked fried chicken was the foundation of Sunday dinners in black households across the South during the 1960s. The secret began the night before when chicken pieces were submerged in cold buttermilk and left to rest until morning. The buttermilk's natural acidity tenderized the meat while infusing it with tangy flavor that no commercial brine could match. Mothers passed this knowledge to daughters, teaching them that patience was the first ingredient in perfect fried chicken. The soaking helped the seasoned flour cling tightly, creating a crust that shattered with every bite. When the chicken hit the hot oil, the buttermilk created steam pockets that made the coating impossibly crispy. Children could smell it frying from the front porch, knowing dinner would be worth the wait. Cast iron skillet fried chicken carried a flavor that no modern pan could replicate, thanks to decades of seasoning built into the metal itself. Black mothers treasured their cast iron skillets, often inheriting them from grandmothers who had cooked thousands of meals in the same pan. The iron distributed heat evenly and held temperature steady when cold chicken was added, preventing the oil from dropping too low. Each batch added another layer of seasoning to the skillet, creating a non-stick surface that improved with every use. The weight of the pan allowed for perfect browning, with the chicken developing a deep golden crust that stayed crispy even after cooling. Women knew exactly how much oil to add and when to flip each piece without looking at a thermometer. Lard fried chicken delivered a richness and crispiness that vegetable oil simply could not achieve. During the 1960s, most black households rendered their own lard from pork fat, keeping jars of the white solid stored in cool pantries for cooking. When heated, lard reached higher temperatures without smoking, creating an environment where chicken cooked quickly on the outside while staying juicy inside. The flavor it imparted was subtle but unmistakable, adding a savory depth that complemented the seasoned flour coating. Mothers knew that lard produced a lighter, crispier crust than other fats, with a texture that stayed crunchy for hours. Children would sneak pieces from the cooling rack, burning their fingers but unable to resist. Lard fried chicken tasted like heritage and love combined. Double-dipped fried chicken created an extra thick crust that became legendary at church picnics and family reunions throughout the 1960s. The technique required dipping buttermilk-soaked chicken into seasoned flour, then back into buttermilk, and finally into the flour again before frying. This second coating built up layers that fried into a substantial shell, crunchy on the outside while protecting the meat's moisture. Black mothers perfected the rhythm of dipping, knowing exactly how long to let excess batter drip before moving to the next step. The result was chicken that looked impressive and tasted even better, with coating thick enough to hold onto seasonings and create pockets of incredible texture. Each bite offered contrast between the shatteringly crisp exterior and tender meat within. Seasoned flour fried chicken carried secret spice blends that varied from kitchen to kitchen, with each mother guarding her particular combination. The base was always all-purpose flour mixed with salt and black pepper, but the additions made each version unique. Some added garlic powder and onion powder for savory depth, while others included cayenne for heat or paprika for color. The flour was mixed thoroughly and often stored in dedicated containers, ready whenever fried chicken was needed. Mothers taught daughters to taste a pinch of the seasoned flour, checking the balance before coating any meat. The spices bloomed in the hot oil, releasing aromas that announced dinner was coming. This personalized approach meant no two families made identical fried chicken, creating pride in each household's particular recipe. Smothered fried chicken transformed crispy pieces into tender, gravy-covered comfort that stretched meals further and satisfied completely. After frying chicken to golden perfection, mothers would remove most of the oil, leaving the brown bits and enough fat to make gravy. Flour was whisked in until it formed a paste, then milk or water was added slowly while stirring constantly. The chicken was returned to the skillet and covered, simmering in the thick gravy until the meat practically fell from the bone. The crispy coating softened and absorbed the savory sauce, creating textures and flavors that contrasted beautifully. This technique turned a single chicken into enough food for large families, with the gravy spooned over rice or biscuits to make everyone full. Smothered fried chicken represented resourcefulness at its finest. Brown bag fried chicken used a simple paper sack to create the most evenly coated pieces without mess. Mothers would place seasoned flour into a brown paper grocery bag, then add a few chicken pieces at a time and shake vigorously until each was completely covered. The technique ensured every surface received an even layer of flour while keeping the kitchen counter clean. Children often helped with the shaking, turning the mundane task into something fun and participatory. The paper absorbed excess moisture from the chicken, helping the flour adhere better and creating a crispier final product. After shaking, each piece was lifted out gently to preserve the coating before being lowered into hot oil. This practical method proved that good fried chicken didn't require fancy equipment. Bacon grease fried chicken incorporated the rendered fat saved from breakfast cooking, adding smoky depth to every golden piece. Black households kept containers of bacon drippings near the stove, understanding that this precious fat was too valuable to discard. When mixed with other oils for frying chicken, bacon grease contributed a subtle smokiness that elevated the entire dish. The practice reflected the waste-nothing philosophy that defined resourceful cooking, turning breakfast leftovers into dinner's secret ingredient. Mothers knew exactly how much bacon grease to add for flavor without overwhelming the chicken's natural taste. The combination created a crust that was both crispy and rich, with undertones that made people ask what made the chicken so delicious. Paprika dusted fried chicken carried a beautiful reddish golden color that made every piece look as good as it tasted. Beyond appearance, paprika added a subtle sweetness and earthy warmth that balanced the salt and pepper in the coating. Black mothers in the 1960s understood that eating began with the eyes, and paprika dusted chicken looked more appetizing than plain golden pieces. The spice was mixed directly into the seasoned flour, ensuring even distribution across every coated surface. When fried, the paprika deepened in color, creating that distinctive reddish hue associated with soul food fried chicken. Some cooks used sweet paprika, while others preferred smoked varieties for additional depth. The visual appeal made this chicken a centerpiece at gatherings, drawing compliments before anyone took a bite. Sunday dinner fried chicken held a special significance that went beyond the meal itself, marking the most important gathering of the week. After church services, families returned home where mothers had already begun preparing the feast. The chicken was often the centerpiece, fried to perfection while dressed in Sunday best clothes with aprons protecting fabric. Children set tables with good china while the smell of frying chicken filled every room. Extended family often joined, turning the meal into a reunion that happened weekly. The fried chicken had to be perfect because it represented hospitality and devotion combined. Mothers woke early to season and soak the meat, timing everything so it came out of the oil just as everyone sat down. Sunday dinner, fried chicken, was tradition and faith on a platter. Hot sauce marinated fried chicken brought Louisiana heat to kitchens across the South, with mothers adding their preferred hot sauce directly to the buttermilk soak. The vinegar in the hot sauce worked alongside the buttermilk to tenderize the meat even further, while the pepper infused every fiber with gentle warmth. Children learned early which bottles contained the serious heat and which offered just a tingle. The spice didn't overwhelm, but instead enhanced the chicken's natural flavor, creating layers of taste that unfolded with each bite. Some mothers used Crisco, others preferred Louisiana brand, and a few made their own pepper sauces from garden chilies. The heat built slowly, warming the mouth without burning. This technique turned ordinary fried chicken into something with personality that guests remembered long after the meal. Crisco fried chicken became popular in Black households during the 1960s when vegetable shortening offered a cleaner taste than traditional animal fats. The solid white shortening melted into clear oil that reached high temperatures without smoking, creating consistently crispy results. Mothers appreciated that Crisco was shelf-stable and didn't require the work of rendering lard from scratch. The neutral flavor let the seasoned flour coating shine without competing tastes. Each piece emerged from the oil with a light golden crust that stayed crisp even as the chicken cooled. The shortening could be strained and reused multiple times, making it economical for families who fried chicken regularly. Crisco represented modern convenience that made Sunday dinners easier while delivering satisfying crunch. Pickle juice, brined fried chicken used the tangy liquid left behind in empty pickle jars, adding unique flavor while tenderizing the meat. Black mothers understood that discarding pickle brine meant wasting a powerful ingredient that could transform tough chicken into something memorable. The chicken soaked overnight in the salty, vinegary liquid, absorbing the dill and garlic flavors that had infused the brine. When coated and fried, the chicken carried subtle pickle undertones that surprised and delighted anyone who tasted it. The acidity worked like buttermilk to break down tough fibers, while the salt penetrated deep into the meat. Children often didn't know the secret ingredient until they were old enough to help in the kitchen. Pickle juice, brined chicken proved that resourcefulness created some of the most interesting flavors. Cayenne pepper fried chicken delivered bold heat that separated the adventurous eaters from those who preferred milder fare. The cayenne was mixed directly into the seasoned flour, its bright red color warning of the fire to come. Black mothers in the 1960s knew exactly how much to add, balancing the burn with enough salt and black pepper to create harmony. The heat hit immediately when biting through the crispy crust, then mellowed as the tender meat cooled the tongue. Some households served this only to adults, while children ate the regular version. Others raised their children on spicy food from the beginning. The cayenne bloomed in the hot oil, releasing its fragrance throughout the kitchen. This wasn't timid cooking, but bold flavor that announced itself with every piece. Church picnic fried chicken was prepared in massive quantities, with mothers waking before dawn to fry enough pieces to feed entire congregations. The chicken had to be perfect because it represented the family's reputation within the church community. Each woman had her signature approach, whether through seasoning, coating technique, or frying method. The pieces were arranged in large aluminum pans, lined with paper towels to absorb excess oil. By the time services ended and families gathered outside on blankets, the chicken had cooled to ideal temperature for eating with hands. Children ran between groups, comparing whose mother made the best batch. The competition was friendly but real, with compliments treasured and recipes closely guarded. Church picnic fried chicken built community one piece at a time. Cornmeal crusted fried chicken offered a different texture than flour-coated versions, with a grittier crunch that some families preferred. The cornmeal was often stone ground, giving the coating a rustic character that connected to older Southern traditions. Mothers mixed the cornmeal with flour in varying proportions, some preferring half and half, while others used mostly cornmeal with just enough flour to help it adhere. The coating fried to a deeper golden color than pure flour and held its crispness longer, even as the chicken cooled. The slight sweetness of the corn complemented the savory seasoning, creating a flavor profile that was distinctly Southern. Children grew up believing this was how all fried chicken should taste. Cornmeal crusted chicken represented regional pride and agricultural heritage. Garlic salt fried chicken simplified seasoning while delivering bold flavor that penetrated every bite. During the 1960s, garlic salt became a kitchen staple that saved time without sacrificing taste. Mothers would mix it directly into the flour along with black pepper and perhaps a touch of paprika for color. The garlic flavor intensified during frying, filling kitchens with an aroma that drew family members from other rooms. The salt component helped form a crispier crust, while the garlic added savory depth that plain salt couldn't achieve. Some cooks added fresh garlic powder on top of the garlic salt for extra intensity. The convenience of the pre-mixed seasoning allowed busy mothers to prepare fried chicken on weeknights when time was short. Garlic salt fried chicken proved that simple shortcuts could still produce memorable results. Egg wash fried chicken created an extra layer between the meat and the flour coating, resulting in a thicker crust that stayed attached during frying. Mothers would beat eggs with a splash of milk or water, then dip the chicken pieces before dredging them in seasoned flour. The egg acted as glue, binding the flour tightly to the meat so nothing fell away in the hot oil. The extra protein from the egg also contributed to browning, giving the chicken a richer golden color. Some families used egg wash as part of a double dipping process, creating coating so thick it could stand on its own. The technique required more preparation, but delivered results that made the extra effort worthwhile. Children learned to crack eggs and whisk them smooth, participating in the process of creating dinner. Self-rising, flour-fried chicken used the leavening already in the flour to create a slightly puffier, more tender coating. The baking powder and salt built into self-rising flour meant mothers needed fewer separate ingredients while still achieving excellent results. When the coated chicken hit the hot oil, the leavening created tiny air pockets in the crust that made it lighter than regular flour coating. The texture was less dense, almost biscuit-like in its tender crunch. Some families swore by this method, while others insisted that all-purpose flour produced the proper crispy shell. The debate between the two approaches divided households and communities, with each side convinced their way was correct. Self-rising, flour-fried chicken represented kitchen innovation, using modern convenience products to streamline traditional recipes. Onion powder fried chicken added savory sweetness that rounded out the flavor profile of the seasoned coating. The dried onion blended into the flour, distributing evenly so every bite carried the same depth of taste. Mothers understood that onion powder offered convenience without the moisture that fresh onion would add, which could make the coating soggy. The flavor intensified during frying, developing the same caramelized sweetness that sautéed onions provided. Combined with garlic powder, the onion created an aromatic foundation that elevated the entire dish. Children who claimed to dislike onions ate this chicken without complaint, never realizing what made it taste so good. The powder dissolved into the coating, becoming invisible while contributing essential flavor that transformed ordinary into extraordinary. Honey, drizzled, fried chicken combined crispy coating with sticky sweetness that made fingers worth licking clean. After frying the chicken to golden perfection, mothers would drizzle warm honey over the pieces while they were still hot from the oil. The honey seeped into the crust, creating pockets of sweetness that contrasted with the savory seasoned flour. Some families added a pinch of cayenne to the honey, creating a sweet heat combination. The technique required timing because the honey had to hit the chicken at just the right temperature to absorb properly without making the coating soggy. Children especially loved this version, often asking for extra drizzles. Honey drizzled fried chicken proved that sweet and savory belonged together long before trendy restaurants discovered it. Saltine cracker-crusted fried chicken used crushed crackers to create an unusually light and crispy coating that shattered with each bite. Mothers would crush saltines into fine crumbs, sometimes mixing them with flour and seasonings to help the coating adhere. The crackers provided a different texture than traditional flour coating, with a more delicate crunch that melted on the tongue. Children often helped with the crushing, using rolling pins to reduce the crackers to powder. The salt already in the crackers meant less additional seasoning was needed, and the wheat flavor added subtle complexity. This technique was especially popular when flour supplies ran low or when cooks wanted something different from the usual dinner. Saltine crusted chicken represented the creativity that defined resourceful kitchens. Pan-fried chicken thighs were the weeknight answer to labor-intensive deep frying, cooking faster while staying incredibly juicy. Thighs were preferred because their higher fat content meant they stayed moist even with shorter cooking times. Mothers would heat just enough oil to come halfway up the chicken pieces, flipping them once to brown both sides evenly. The technique used less oil than deep frying, making it more economical and easier to manage on busy evenings. The skin crisped beautifully where it touched the hot pan, while the meat stayed tender beneath. Some cooks covered the pan partway through to ensure the thickest parts cooked through without burning the exterior. Pan-fried thighs delivered the satisfaction of fried chicken with half the effort, perfect for nights when time was short. Oven-finished fried chicken started in hot oil, then moved to the oven to cook through without burning the coating. This two-step method allowed mothers to achieve deep golden color on the stovetop before letting the oven's gentle heat finish the job. The technique was especially useful for larger pieces like breasts that needed more time to cook through completely. By transferring the chicken to a baking sheet, the coating stayed crispy on all sides instead of getting soggy where it rested against the pan. The oven's even heat meant no constant monitoring was required, freeing mothers to prepare side dishes or set the table. This practical approach combined the best of frying and baking, delivering restaurant-quality results with home kitchen equipment. Oven-finished chicken showed that smart technique could solve common cooking problems. Chicken wings with hot sauce glaze became party food before buffalo wings existed, with Black mothers creating their own spicy glazed versions. The wings were fried until crispy, then tossed in a mixture of melted butter and hot sauce that coated every surface. The butter mellowed the heat while helping the sauce cling to the crispy skin. These wings were finger food meant for gatherings, served in big bowls with plenty of napkins nearby. Children sneaked pieces from the kitchen before the guests arrived, learning early that the crispy tips were the best part. The glaze could be adjusted for heat level, making wings mild enough for children or fiery enough to challenge adults. Hot sauce glazed wings represented the ingenuity of creating celebration food from the cheapest chicken parts available. Mustard marinated fried chicken used yellow mustard to tenderize the meat and add tangy depth beneath the crispy coating. The chicken soaked in mustard for several hours, the vinegar and spices penetrating the meat while the bright yellow color stained every surface. When coated and fried, the mustard flavor mellowed into something subtle but distinctive, creating chicken that tasted different from any other version. Some mothers mixed the mustard with hot sauce or pickle juice for additional complexity. The technique was practical because mustard was cheap and always available in the pantry. The acid in the mustard worked like buttermilk to tenderize tough birds, making even older chickens suitable for frying. Mustard marinated chicken proved that everyday condiments could become secret weapons in skilled hands. Leftover fried chicken sandwiches transformed yesterday's dinner into today's lunch, proving that cold fried chicken had its own particular magic. The chicken was sliced or pulled apart and placed between soft white bread with mayonnaise, pickles, and sometimes a leaf of lettuce. The coating had softened overnight, but still provided texture against the tender meat. Some families reheated the chicken briefly in a skillet to restore crispness, while others preferred it cold straight from the refrigerator. The sandwich was portable, wrapped in wax paper for lunches, packed in tin boxes or brown bags. Children traded these sandwiches at school, knowing they held more value than store-bought alternatives. Leftover fried chicken sandwiches honored the philosophy that good food deserved to be enjoyed twice. Country fried chicken with white gravy covered crispy pieces and creamy pepper-flecked sauce that turned the dish into pure comfort. The gravy was made in the same skillet after frying, using the browned bits and remaining oil as the flavor foundation. Flour was whisked in until it formed a paste, then milk was added slowly while stirring constantly until the gravy thickened. Heavy doses of black pepper gave the white gravy its distinctive speckled appearance and gentle heat. The chicken was served swimming in the gravy or with it ladled generously on top. Mashed potatoes and biscuits completed the plate, creating a meal that satisfied completely. Country fried chicken with gravy stretched the meal further while adding richness that made every bite feel like an occasion. Seasoned salt-fried chicken relied on the popular all-purpose seasoning that appeared in black kitchens during the 1960s. The seasoned salt combined multiple spices in one convenient shaker, eliminating the need to measure individual ingredients. Mothers mixed it into the flour for the coating or sprinkled it directly onto the chicken before dredging. The blend typically included salt, paprika, onion, garlic, and other spices that created complex flavor with minimal effort. Some families became loyal to particular brands, insisting their version produced the best results. The convenience allowed fried chicken to happen on weeknights when time for elaborate seasoning wasn't available. Seasoned salt-fried chicken represented the embrace of modern shortcuts that still delivered traditional satisfaction. Grandmother's secret recipe fried chicken carried techniques and proportions that were never written down but passed through generations by watching and doing. Each family believed their grandmother's version was superior, though the recipes varied widely from kitchen to kitchen. The secrets might involve particular spice combinations, specific soaking times, or techniques for achieving the perfect crust. Young women learned by standing beside their grandmothers, absorbing knowledge through observation. The recipes connected generations, with each batch of fried chicken honoring those who came before. These unwritten formulas represented cultural wealth that couldn't be replicated by restaurants. Grandmother's fried chicken was more than food. It was legacy served hot, carrying love and history in every bite.
Pig feet and collard greens brought together two ingredients that white society dismissed, but black communities transformed into soul-satisfying meals. Pig feet, boiled until tender and gelatinous, released collagen that thickened cooking liquid into rich, silky broth. Collard greens, tough and bitter when raw, simmered in that broth for hours until they turned tender and deeply flavored. The combination created a pot of food that could feed 8 people for under 50 cents during Depression years. Black cooks added vinegar and hot peppers to cut through the richness, creating layers of flavor that made each bite interesting despite simple ingredients. In sharecropping communities, this dish appeared regularly because both ingredients were readily available. Pigs provided feet even when better cuts went to landowners, and collards grew abundantly in gardens. The potlikker left behind was considered as valuable as the greens themselves, sopped up with cornbread or saved for cooking rice. Children learned to appreciate pig feet's unique texture, the meat slipping off bones and the skin turning silky after long cooking despite crushing poverty. Sweet potato biscuits were the soft-spoken stars of every humble table. Made from mashed sweet potatoes, flour, and a touch of lard, they carried the sweetness of the earth and the strength of those who planted it. Each biscuit came out of the oven golden, warm, and smelling like home. Sweet potatoes were a gift crop, tough enough to thrive when others failed, and they carried families through hard seasons. These biscuits stretched what little was available into something that felt like luxury. They were eaten for breakfast with syrup or alongside greens and stew at supper. No matter when, they always brought a comfort that money could not buy. The dough was often mixed by hand, shaped on worn counters, and baked in cast iron. The rhythm of making them passed from mother to daughter like a blessing. Sweet potato biscuits were proof that sweetness could come from struggle, that even the humblest harvest could rise high in the oven and on the heart. They fed not just the body but the spirit, turning hardship into hope with every tender bite. Wild rice pudding combined indigenous grains with African-inspired preparation to create a dish both nourishing and subtly sweet. Wild rice grew naturally in shallow lakes and slow rivers, and enslaved families near these wetlands harvested the dark grains with paddles and baskets, drying them in the sun for year-round use. Cooked slowly in water until tender, the rice was stirred with a bit of sorghum syrup or honey if available, making a warm pudding that supplied protein and lasting energy. Its nutty flavor and satisfying texture turned a simple bowl into a special treat, especially when fresh fruit or spices could be added. This recipe carried forward after emancipation as African-American cooks continued to value wild rice for festive meals and family gatherings. Modern chefs still celebrate its earthy richness, but the story behind wild rice pudding honors the blend of native and African foodways that sustained people through scarcity and created a dessert that is at once humble and deeply rooted in the shared history of America's wetlands and kitchens. Giblet gravy over rice was one of those dinners that showed how nothing went to waste in the kitchen. Chicken was expensive, but the innards, the gizzard, liver, and heart were cheap or sometimes even given away by butchers. My grandmother chopped them small, simmered them in broth, and thickened the pot into a rich gravy that smelled like Sunday supper. Poured over rice, it became hearty enough to stretch across the whole family. The rice soaked up the flavor, turning a small handful of giblets into a meal that fed 6 mouths without complaint. Some children turned up their noses at first, but hunger taught quick appreciation, and the taste of the gravy was strong, savory, and full of life. She said, "Giblet gravy was proof that dignity came not from the cut of meat, but from the hands that prepared it." In the 1960s, this dish carried people through lean nights, filling bowls with warmth when little else could be afforded. Giblet gravy over rice was frugality turned into something satisfying. Honey locust pod syrup was one of those rare touches of sweetness that seemed like a miracle when sugar was nothing but a memory. The long brown pods of the honey locust tree were gathered carefully, cracked open, and boiled for hours in iron pots until the liquid turned dark and fragrant. Its taste was faintly like molasses, with notes of smoke and earth, thin but deeply satisfying. It took patience and firewood, two things never easy to spare, but the result brought joy to meals that might otherwise have been plain or bitter. A spoonful in corn porridge or drizzled over ash cakes could make a hard day's labor feel a little less harsh. The syrup's scent filled cabins with warmth, reminding families of better seasons. The pod itself, once discarded by others, became a small miracle of sweetness pulled straight from the land. For the enslaved, sweetness was not just flavor. It was hope, condensed into something they could hold, share, and remember. In every drop of syrup, there was a quiet act of defiance, a way to create comfort when comfort was denied, proof that ingenuity could still make life taste sweet.
Cracklin bread brought Christmas morning joy to 1930s Black households by transforming pork skin scraps into golden cornbread studded with crispy treasures. After rendering lard from fatback, women saved the brown, crunchy bits of skin that remained in the pot. These cracklings were folded into cornmeal batter along with buttermilk and a touch of salt, then baked in cast iron until the bread developed a crackling crust of its own. Each bite delivered both the earthiness of corn and bursts of salty, porky crunch that made children fight for corner pieces. The bread cost nothing extra since cracklings were simply a byproduct of making lard, which every family did after fall hog killing. Served hot with molasses or alongside Christmas dinner greens, Cracklin bread elevated simple cornbread into something worth celebrating. The dish represented the wisdom of using every part of what you had, turning waste into wonder through knowledge passed down from mothers to daughters across generations.
Dandelion green salad came straight from vacant lots and roadsides where free food grew abundantly if you knew what to look for. Black women taught their daughters which greens were safe to eat, passing down knowledge that connected them to African ancestors who had survived through intimate understanding of plants. Spring brought tender young dandelion leaves that were gathered in baskets before the plants flowered and turned bitter. These greens were washed repeatedly to remove grit, then torn by hand and dressed simply with vinegar, salt, and maybe a drizzle of bacon grease if available. The result was sharp, slightly bitter, and packed with vitamins that prevented scurvy during winter's lean months. In Chicago's South Side and Harlem's tenements, recent migrants foraged in any patch of green they could find, maintaining connections to rural foodways even in concrete jungles. Children were sent out with cloth bags to gather greens, learning to identify edible plants while contributing to family meals. Dandelion greens represented self-sufficiency and the refusal to go hungry when nature provided freely. Some families wilted the greens with hot bacon fat poured over top, creating a warm salad that felt more substantial through family wisdom. Corncob jelly was one of those miracles that made people smile at their own cleverness. When the corn was shucked and the cobs left behind, no one dared to throw them out. Those bare cobs went into a big pot of water, boiled until the water turned golden and sweet-smelling. Sugar and a little lemon juice got added next, then everything was strained until the liquid gleamed like honey. The result was a jelly that tasted faintly of corn, syrupy and light, the perfect spread for biscuits or toast. People used it when fruit was scarce, and it carried a quiet pride that came from turning scraps into sweetness. Grandparents remembered it from their childhood, when waste was not an option and imagination ruled the kitchen. Corncob jelly was proof that flavor could be coaxed out of what others might ignore. It was soft, shining, and made with patience. Those who tasted it never forgot that feeling of abundance born from scarcity. Each spoonful told the story of hands that worked hard, saved everything, and still found time to make something beautiful. Smoked catfish tails reveal the skill and resourcefulness that define survival cooking on plantations near rivers and coastal waters. After commercial fishermen or estate kitchens took the prime fillets, the bony tails and smaller pieces were often left behind. Enslaved cooks cleaned these scraps carefully, rubbed them with salt or local spices, and smoked them over slow hickory fires. The result was a flavorful preserved fish that kept for days and could be stirred into stews, crumbled over grains, or eaten on its own with cornbread. Smoking techniques reflected West African traditions carried across the Atlantic, where preserving fish with wood smoke had long been a way to ensure protein during lean seasons. In later years, African American fish camps and southern smokehouses continued this method, turning a food of necessity into a celebrated regional specialty. Modern smoked catfish dishes found in Mississippi and Louisiana restaurants still trace their flavor back to these early practices of careful preservation and culinary creativity born from scarcity. Fish head stew was a dish born out of necessity, yet it carried surprising depth and flavor. Fish heads, often discarded by others, were simmered slowly with onions, potatoes, and rice until they yielded every ounce of richness to the broth. My grandmother insisted the heads made the stew better than fillets, providing body and nourishment that nothing else could. The bones and skin flavored the liquid until it turned hearty and comforting. Potatoes stretched the meal, rice thickened it, and vegetables added substance, turning scraps into a filling supper. The taste was strong, earthy, and unforgettable, reminding everyone that no part of food should go unused. For Black families in the 1960s, fish head stew was a common way to stretch the catch of the day, ensuring nothing went to waste. It became a lesson in thrift and gratitude, proof that survival demanded creativity. Fish head stew was both humble and mighty, sustaining families through lean times with flavor and tradition.
Cornmeal dressing replaced traditional bread stuffing in 1930s Black Christmas kitchens when wheat flour prices climbed beyond reach. Cornbread was crumbled days ahead and left to dry, then combined with sautéed onions, celery from the garden, sage, and whatever drippings could be saved. The mixture was moistened with potlikker or broth, packed into baking pans, and baked until the top turned golden and crusty while the inside stayed moist. Some families added giblets or oysters when available, but most kept it simple and let the cornbread's earthy sweetness carry the dish. Cornmeal dressing appeared alongside whatever protein the family could manage, chicken, rabbit, or wild game, stretching the meal further while providing filling satisfaction. Children loved the crispy corner pieces best, fighting over them at the table. The dish represented practical wisdom, using cheap and available ingredients to create something festive. Cornmeal dressing proved Christmas flavor came from care and seasoning, not expensive ingredients.
Onion skin tea was one of those old remedies that could quiet both body and soul. When someone had a cough or a fever, or when food simply ran out, a pot of this humble tea came to the rescue. Dried onion skins were gathered from the corners of the kitchen, rinsed and steeped in boiling water until the liquid turned golden brown. The scent was sharp but comforting, a mix of earth and sweetness that filled the air with warmth. Some added honey if they had it, or a squeeze of lemon, but even plain, it had its own charm. People believed it could heal and strengthen, and maybe it did, because hope itself can be medicine. Onion skin tea was born from patience, brewed by hands that knew how to stretch every last bit of life from what they had. It was the taste of resilience and care, a sip that made you believe tomorrow might be gentler. Cowpea soup simmered like a prayer whispered over a fire. The pot would start with water, a scoop of dried field peas, and maybe a scrap of salted meat if the week had been kind. Onions and garlic joined in, releasing their scent as the broth thickened into something golden and strong. The cowpeas, small and sturdy, softened slowly, their flavor deepening with every hour. This wasn't fast food, it was patient food, built on rhythm and time. Families made it during harvest, when work was hard and hands needed warmth. It was ladled into tin bowls and passed around without ceremony, each bite grounding you in gratitude. Sometimes cornbread floated on top like an offering, soaking up the last drops of broth. The soup tasted of earth and labor, of simple things done well. Cowpea soup was both meal and memory, tying together generations who had learned how to make plenty out of little. It was food for body and spirit alike, humble but whole, strong but...
Which fried chicken recipe brings back your sweetest memories? Drop it in the comments, hit like, and subscribe so we can keep bringing forgotten flavors back to the table.